God deals in illogical things. Yeah. Just be obedient to me. You do remember the 3 Hebrew boys, don't you? Yeah, they were obedient to God, thrown in the fiery furnace. But God worked a miracle. And what I'm saying to us is that along the way to our inheritance, God has the power to work a miracle in our lives. So, God called Noah to do something extraordinary, to do the impossible. And along the way to our inheritance, my question to us is, are we available to God to do the illogical thing? To do the impossible? Are we available to God? Is our relationship with God in such a fashion that He can use us in extraordinary ways? True obedience means doing what? What God says, when He says it, how He says it, for as long as He said it. See, we must place obedience at the top of our priority list. Along the way to your inheritance, along the way to my inheritance, we must place obedience at the top of our priority list. It's very important. Yeah. So the question is, where's obedience on your priority list? See, obedience plays such a role, such an important role in our relationship with God. See, Noah, a man who obeyed God, even when God asked him to do that which made no sense. I challenge each of us, to talk to your friends about what you're doing. Don't mind sharing your testimony. Everybody now is talking about, the job market and how bad it is. 4 million folk out of work. And I told a fellow the other day, we was talking about money. I said, but man, I never been broke because, at my church, I bring my tithe. Your tithe? Well, man, how much is that? Well, I get 10% of everything I make. What? But along the way to our inheritance, we are going to have to do just what the Lord says do. So, God called this man to do something, like I said, extraordinary. Noah obeyed God despite what others thought of him. When we choose the path of obedience, we must also be prepared for negative response. Remember I told you about the sister? She telling her friends, we're not going to do this bridesmaid, and we're not going to get no dresses made and all that. Like, what, girl? Why? So she's going through that now. And I told her, just hold her ground. Just hold her ground. And brothers and sisters, we have got to be obedient. And when we, people, a lot of folk don't like to be alone. But along this way to our inheritance, you're going to have to spend some time alone with just you and God. Those close friends that you thought were close to you, you may have to back away from them for a season and encourage yourself in the Lord. So, will they laugh at you? Oh yeah, they will. Yeah, if you're going to reap your inheritance, don't be afraid to be laughed at. Noah chose to walk with God in the midst of a corrupt society. And we're living in a critical and crucial time. The society had grown so wicked that even God had determined that He was going to destroy the entire world except Noah and his family. So what am I saying? Along the way to our inheritance, sometime you're going to have to spend some time all alone. All alone. So, John MacArthur, he makes this statement: you cannot, in most cases, be faithful and popular at the same time. So then we need to choose. He says, so pick one. Are you going to be popular, or are we going to be faithful? God called us to be faithful. So, God had done all of this for Israel. So what did God really want from Israel? He delivered them out of the Egyptian bondage. Moses is dead, and God didn't leave them alone. He gave them another leader, Joshua. He prepped Joshua to lead the people into the promised land. And my brothers and sisters, if we're going to reap our inheritance, we must be obedient. We must be strong. We must be have courage. What did God want from Israel? Again, remember, Exodus 5, 1 and 2. God wanted Israel to worship Him. Hear me now. God brought Israel out of Egyptian bondage, showed them many signs and wonders. And God brought them out to worship Him. And through the signs and wonders, God desired for His people, as He desired for us, is that we have an attitude adjustment, that our attitude may be spiritual. Because once our attitudes become spiritual, then everything else that God desires from us will fall in place, because spiritual attitude adjustment brings about wanting to do the will of God. Yeah, you know, we quick to get our programs together and put this in place and then that in place. You got a whole bunch of folk doing stuff with bad attitudes. But if we would have our attitudes adjusted to worship God, then He won't have no problem with us loving one another. He won't have no problem with us dealing with tough issues. You know, if we have the right attitude, then my brother can come to me and say, "Bro, I don't understand what you did, what you said. It didn't seem quite godly to me. Can you talk to me?" And I won't say, "Who do you think you are? You ain't my daddy." You know what I'm saying? Because all of us got some stuff in us that need to come out. Yeah, but can I come to you and talk to you not only about your stuff, but my stuff? Yeah. So along the way to our inheritance, it's a beautiful walk. It's a lovely walk, but it's not a walk in the park. Because all of us got some issues. And God knew that Israel still had some issues. So that's why He told Joshua, He said, man, you got to be strong. You got to be courageous. You got to make a choice, because what I really want from my people is for Israel to worship me. And Jesus says that the Father is looking for those that will worship Him in spirit and in truth. I love him, but every now and then I have a tendency, the proclivity to tell a lie. I love Him and I want to do the right thing, but this flesh sometimes do get in my way. And God wanted to bring Israel out of her bondage so she could be in relationship with Him. So when He tell them to do what He wanted them to do through, His servant Moses, He wanted them to have the right attitude instead of rising up against Moses. God showed all of His signs and wonders so that their attitude could be adjusted. He brought them through the Red Sea, and now they're in the desert with no water, and here they go complaining. When they should have been on their knees praying, say, God, You brought us this far. And I don't believe that You brought us to leave us now, which is send us some water. But they went complaining. Bad attitudes in the house of God. There's no time for that, my brothers. This is no place. So along the way to our inheritance, God wants us to worship Him. Not only does God want us to worship Him along the way to our inheritance, but He wanted from Israel, just as He wanted from us, He wanted them to know Him. I mean, do you really know Him? Beyond praising on Sunday mornings and clapping our hands and hearing the sermon, do we really know Him? Because the other, or number two, beyond the worship that God wanted from His people, they were to be God's representatives in the land of Canaan. There were a whole bunch of unsaved folk in Canaan. Yeah. And they were to live that others would come to know God. So God wanted Israel, as He wants us, as we go along the way to reap our inheritance, He wants us to know Him and to make Him known. How do you know a person? You got to spend some time with them. And when you think you know Him, God is so awesome, He got some new stuff for you. Yeah. And that's a part of our inheritance, is knowing God.